Okay, everyone, we're going to get started here. Thank you for joining us today on our webinar Wednesday. Today, we will be talking about and covering MBD, which is model-based definition. So just a little bit about myself. I'm a CAD technical specialist here with PDSVISION. I have a background and experience in 3D design and also additive manufacturing, as well as animation and rendering. I'm just going to give a brief overview of who we are as PDSVISION. We were formerly Boundary Systems. We're the technology leader in PTC software and services. We also offer consulting, help desk, and cloud services. Underneath this map, you can see a timeline of Boundary Systems was started in 2006, and then in 2018 is when PDSVISION Group acquired Boundary Systems. These are our partners. PTC, the big one. We also are partners with Modex 3D, ZW CAD, just to name a couple other. Before we get into this, we're going to talk about this concept called the digital thread. It's an approach to the application of PTC's software suite. This is a concept that this thread intersects with the use of individual applications and how and where they're utilized in the manufacturing process. So that's what this graph, this is what that shows here with this thread and how it and where it intersects in your manufacturing process. It leads to reduced time to market and less downtime in production and costs. It allows for an increase in manufacturing efficiency. So, MBD, model-based definition, is the process of storing all the detailing annotations on the 3D model rather than on a 2D drawing. If any of you are familiar with doing detailing on a drawing, this is actually going to be pretty useful, and to you, it's also going to be something that you're somewhat familiar with already. Placing dimensions, tolerancing, datum symbols, custom symbols, surface finishes, all of that can be done directly on the 3D model. So this allows for the ability to see all the annotations on the model in a single mode and not having to create several sheets of 2D drawings. So with that, I'm going to show you guys how some of this functionality works. So here I have a part, and first thing I'm going to do is touch on the interface here a little bit for those that to see how this adapts to 3D over 2D. So in our ribbon up here, we have an annotate tab. Under this, we have annotation planes. These planes tell us what the direction of the annotation is facing relative to the part and relative to us. So, and then what direction the text is going in. So we have a flat to screen option, and then we have front, top, right, back, bottom, left, all of those planes that we're used to seeing in terms of how we view the model. Beyond there, this group right here where it says manage annotations and show annotations, This option allows us to bring up annotation or dimensions that already exist. But over here in this annotation group is where we'll be at most of the time when we're doing annotations in MBD. We have our dimensions, geometric tolerances, everything else that you would find, notes, surface finish, symbol, and that's where this group is. I'd also like to point out the detail tree here on the left when we are in annotate. This detail tree is quite familiar to those of you who have done drawings because this is listing where our annotations are. Below that, we have our model tree as well to reference back to. So it's nice and convenient to have all of this in one space. Underneath this model tree, I have a footer. In that footer, I am able to set up empty annotation features when I'm first starting to set up a part that needs to be annotated in here. The reason I do that is because it allows for better organization. These annotation features resemble what we call combined states, which are the views that we set up for seeing this information on the model. So to expand on that, the combined states are what we see the information on. And what that means is it's a state that shows, it literally is a combination of our views, layers, sections, appearances, all of that is within a combined state. So in our view manager, I have the 5 of them listed here that I have created, and they are filled with our annotations. And I do turn the default one off. I like to just see these here. Right now, so there's a few of these that there's one of these that have a few of these that have a section view. So I'm going to go through the tabs right now and show you how these work. So right now, the active state is just the model. A lot of companies like to set up just the model view to see it plain with nothing on it, something to always reference back to. If I go over to this combination state called main, I'm sorry, I need to switch here. We have all these notes in which you typically see when you first are working in a MBD file. So all of these notes are flat to screen. If I were to turn this model or move it around, you can see the notes are staying in place. This is what we want for this view. So anything I were to place on here from here on out, I could change it to flat to screen, and that's how we would get these to show up. You can create, there are a few different ways you could create a combination state. I like to do it through the view manager personally. It just keeps everything nice and organized in there. You can also hit, there's a tiny little plus button down here where all the other ones are, and it will add it to the end of that. And then you also have this option up here, combination states, where it says new. But right next to that, where it says update, if I were to move this view, and if I were to move how this is being viewed right now, whether it's rotating it around, or if I were to put it in the front and I were to hit update, it would save that combination state. It would save it in this view. But I've had it just like this. So you can see that every time I rotate out of it and hit back to it, it goes right back into its view. And that's because I left it in this in its default orientation I hit and I moved it over so there's room for the notes, and then I hit update so it stays in that orientation. So that's what keeps it locked in a sense to that in that combination state, but it can be changed at any time. So with that being said, going to the next combination state, I have just the front view here. And you'll also notice two annotations carried over to this state that will be in every state. I have this note that's flat to screen that's going to be in every one of these states. And I also have, this is actually a note down here, the tolerancing values, where I actually added it as a note because I'm going to show you guys towards the end of this, we can actually export this as a .pvz file, and you are able to open it in Creo view, and this note will come along with it. So I know this can be set up in our configuration options, but those don't carry over to an exported file. So that's why that's in here. You'll notice that even though that front view is the orientation I have it in for this combined state, I can rotate out of it and see where those are exactly pointing at. So this round dimension right here, I'm hovering over it and it's calling out, you know, where it's pointing directly to that surface, that round surface there. Break sharp corners is referring to all these corners right here. I even have a surface finish symbol down here on this flat bottom surface as well. So this is a good way to see all of this, not just in the front view, but also all the way around the model. Same concept with this combined state, which it's calling out dimensions for this slot. And I also have a main dimension in here. But what's nice about this is going to demonstrate the fact that you can rotate out of this a little better, because I have my datum symbol A down here, as well as a flatness geometric tolerance down here, and they're both calling out that surface right there. So even though this was my initial view, rotating out of it, we can see where A is. And this is that flexibility we like to stress the importance of in MBD. And then this dimensioning is calling out our holes. You can see, again, where I'm hovering over this dimension right here, it's calling out our holes. And this is because I added all the holes as references for this dimension. When you're dimensioning in here, which we'll get into a little bit further here in a second, but when you're dimensioning in here, you're able to select an entity such as a vertex or an edge or a surface. You're selecting the model itself, similar to how you would in a drawing, except now we're doing this right on the model. And so you have your initial reference, but you can select more than the one that you start the dimension with. So that's why this dimension here and this geometric tolerance right here have those holes called out. And you can see the same thing goes on with these are the initial. You can see where where it's highlighting, pre-selecting, that the references highlight the initial ones with the dimensions here. So, and then finally, I got a section view here. So we can create section views in here as well. This one I'm using a planer. I'm using my section A plane right here, and I'm using that to cut away down in the middle here to get a side view. So you'll notice that as I'm also clicking through these 2, 3, 4, and 5, all the combined states that have dimensions, you can see my section A plane being referred to in those views as well. But when I'm on my main page or when I'm in my model, it's gone. And there is a way to control that through layers in both the layer tree and in our view manager when we're working with our combined states. So this is huge because MBD is replacing traditional drawing sheets with when you're done with this and you export a PVZ file or even a 3D PDF, all the dimensions will carry over to that, and then that is typically what replaces drawing sheets or even drawing sheets that are in a regular PDF. This is the method that is a lot more efficient than your traditional drawing. So I'm going to switch here on how to get some of this actually started. So I'm going to leave, it doesn't matter where, I'm going to do a note for the first one. What I'd like to point out is down here under the footer, I'm going to edit its definition. And now within this annotation feature, I have all the dimensioning and annotation tools right up top here. So I could add any one to this and it'll actually go right into the annotation feature. I'm going to start with flat to screen for this note. So I'm just going to add the first one. And this is what we saw earlier. And now it could live there. Of course, we can edit this, the size of it. Could change the color. There we go. Move it around. Now you could see it's both in the detail tree and in the annotation feature. In order to get this, and we're going to do this with a couple of the items, but in order to get this to show up in certain views, I'm able to select it and go back under my annotate tab. And now you see earlier these were grayed out, but now these options are able to be accessed. So I can choose assign to states, and I am going to control select all of them. Another quick thing here I want to show you too. I don't have my section combined state here yet. So I'm just going to create that real quick and then we'll get back to it. So I'm going to do that through the view manager. I'm going to hit new and call this 05 section A. I'm going to hit reference originals. It's not activated, but I'm going to kind of leave it there. I'm also going to create a new empty annotation feature with the same name. 05 section A. And then I'm just going to be sure to drag it underneath my footer here. So just real quick, you can see I'm on this model combination state. I go to main and you can see it's there too, the same note that we had before. And then I'll even go to this one and show you that it's carrying over to the other combination states. So I can, let's say I wanted to add that tolerancing note to this as well. I'm going to start a new note and just drop it in there. And up here is where I could choose note from file. You can also have just regular .text files be brought in, and those can be notes as well. So I'm going to do that here. And I like how this window stays open as I can go along. I have that place. I am going to edit it a little bit and how it looks. Like I'm going to edit to a gray color, but I can continue to add annotations within this feature. So a lot of companies on this page like to bring in custom symbols. And we won't get into how you create that because that's pretty long and we don't have time for that. But I have one created here, and I'm going to change the height, change the size here, and drop it in there. And now I have that. I could even change its color under format to something that's to our company colors. So now I have that in here, and I'm actually going to assign this to the main page, and I'm going to assign this to the main page as well. So right here, I'm going to remove it from the model one here. There we go. So those are just some. All these notes were flat to screen. I could bring in. I'm going to bring in one more here through this main page. I'm going to do one more note. Make sure it's easy to miss. Make sure you're on your correct annotation plane. Site map right there. And I could go back and change its size and color and where I want it placed. But now I have my main page, my main combination state set up here. So this has already got a couple dimensions on it. So I'm going to add some more to it. And what I want to add is this round one up here. So that's just, here's our dimension right here. Make sure our plane is selected. So I'm going to select front. And this is where I change from surface or entity. So that's something that is different here in MBD, that this window is a little different, you'll notice when you're doing this versus in a traditional drawing. And I could just place that. I could change this arrow style like that. I'm going to drop my decimal point. And so now we see that. If I wanted the surface finish symbol at the bottom, could choose this here. I'll do a standard one, and I'll do this one with a leader, and I can move that when I'm out of this window. What's nice, since I already have an updated view, I could just go hit that tab again, and now I have this. And so now you can see I'm starting to add dimensions pretty easily directly on the model, and we can see here how quick and easy that is. So if I wanted to go to my slot dimensioning scheme, and I wanted to add my datums to this, as well as a couple other dimensions, going to the footer again to edit this dimension to go into the annotation feature. And again, this, if you guys ever come across this is personal preference. This is just how I like to keep things organized. it's something where I could see all of these listed within a footer and within an annotation feature in of itself. So I'll do a dimension real quick. I'm gonna change this to entity, and I'm gonna rotate out of there. I need to make sure top, there we go. Top is selected. There we go. And by the way, in case you're wondering how to add text to these annotations, if I open dimension text, I want this to say 2 times underneath it, and now I've added text to that dimension right there. I'm going to temporarily switch to my front plane because now I'm going to add a couple datum symbols. I'm going to add A on the bottom here, as we saw in that first file there. So I got A. I'm going to add a switch back to my top plane, and I'm going to add B and C. So we got B there, and I'm going to add C on the side here. And then I'm going to add some of my geometric tolerances with all those. So what's nice about this, if I, regardless of what the annotation plane is on, if I select the symbol, it'll automatically remember where that one is. So with this, I'm going to change this to flatness. I'm going to get rid of the A and B here, and then delete this here. And this is just I'm just putting a number in there to show you guys where it is. Obviously, you would, whatever value you guys have set to your parts is what you would put in there. So I'll create the ones for B and C. So for B, choose perpendicularity, and it might be hard to see, but there's this little selection screen right here, this little selection button right here that says, okay, we need to select a symbol that it's calling out. So I'm gonna scroll down here and select A. And again, this is just any arbitrary number. And then I'm gonna add C as well. Right there. What I also like to, once I'm done with that, you can kind of see how C and this tolerance are kind of hidden. I can bring that up just by moving to plane, and I could actually select a surface, and now we can see the whole thing and what those are calling out there. So now in this view, I want to dimension some of the holes. So with that, and then I also need to, let me back up here. I want to also add these datums and these symbols to just that other view, the holes combined state. So I could just actually select all of these, A, B, and C, and their tolerances, assign to states. I'm gonna control select the slot and the holes right there, and then they will pop up here, as you can see that. In addition to that, now I need to add my geometric tolerance to this dimension right here. So, and what I mentioned earlier, how it's calling out, how I have all these references to highlight all the holes. That's within this reference window here. I had this is my original one that's in orange right there. It's kind of highlighting it, and then the rest are all the other surfaces I selected to have that referenced by. So what I also want to show in here is, again, this dimension text. I had the original dimension, and then I added all of this. And the reason I'm pointing this out again is because underneath that, while you're typing and adding to your dimensional text, you have all your symbols under here too that you can add. So position, perpendicularity, and all these symbols that you have to add to your dimension text. And as you're typing, it'll just show up right on the screen as you saw earlier. So to add my geometric tolerance to this, I'm going to select here, and I'm going to change this to position, and I'm going to choose my B right there, and I'm going to choose my C right there. And if I also wanted to change the if I wanted a different symbol in there, I could actually add it to this up here, the actual numerical value. So under symbols, you know, put that next to it, and now I have a geometric tolerance with that dimension, and it's calling out my other datums there as well. So, and then I might go back in there and add, might go back in there and add another. I would need a couple other dimensions in there. So one would be make sure my top plane is active. I would change this. I would change this here. And then I want to go into this dimensional text and say there's 2 times, just like I did the other dimension. So now I could go back in here, and now this is also annotated in this view. So section A, the one that we created earlier, obviously there's no cross section here yet, but I'm going to show you how we do that. So because that's the first thing I want to do. So in my view manager, under sections, we could see section A is activated. Under sections, I'm gonna add new. This is gonna be planar. I'm gonna call it A. And this is hidden right now, but I'm gonna select my section A plane right there. And now we have this, it's sectioned off with that. We have some other options. There's planar, there's offset, and a few other options to set up. You can make a custom cutaway as well. For this purpose, we're just using a planar section view here. This I can show hatch pattern within here. I could even change the color of this capped section to something different. If you wanted something more obvious, more subtle, I'm gonna just do a dark gray. And now I'm happy with that. To edit, you can also, I want to show you where you could edit the hatching as well, because that's also a common thing we do in our drawings. So to edit hatching, we just right click that and get hatching up here. And here's all your different options here. You have your standards under here to kind of minimize the list. You could increase, you could decrease it or increase it by having it. So I'm just going to leave it like that. So the next thing I want to do is go in here and add a couple dimensions to this as well. And I'm going to go in my right view here and add these from this side here. So I got to make sure I'm on the right plane here. I want this one. I also want this one. And I also want this one. I'm going to change how that looks too. You can go back into it and change my display from linear to center leader. And now it's, it's kind of out of the way there. I could drag these up and get these out of the way. Change the decimal. There's one last thing as far as the dimensions for this center cutout here. Now I'm going to bring these up a little differently. These aren't created like we have been doing with our dimensions here. These are actually existing, and we could just bring them up and change some of the how it's viewed. So how we do that is under show annotations. This gives me the ability to select. You guys who have done drawings have seen this before. This is typically what we do if we're not creating dimensions. So for this center cutout, I'm going to choose just all of it. It's seeing that as an entire whole. And now these magenta numbers are showing us what's available. They're not placed on here yet. If I'm scrolling here through this list, whatever's pre-selecting is what that annotation is, or I could just go in here in the window and just grab what I want. So I want the 10, the 15, and I want the 20, the 15, and the 10. And now those are there. So the next thing we got to do is change their plane. So to do that, I could have all of them. I could have all of these selected at once and do this all at once. So I can hit move to plane, and I'm going to select my section A plane. So now they're facing us the right way, but they're not oriented. Orientation is not correct on them. So I could just change that real quick. I'm gonna flip it 270. Now they're facing us the right way, and I could spread them out a little further. That's how we get those dimensions to show up there. With these, I'm going to also change out their references a little bit. So this is different. This references tab becomes available here, and then I'm able to select new references. Like that. And then I could also go into the, choose right side, show section, activate, cut out of there. You can see I'm going into right view here. I'm gonna hit update, so it saves this combination state so far. So update, and now when I switch between two, you'll see that it'll automatically turn on the section. So I wanted to change the references of this. I don't want all of these to show it's the entire whole. So to do that, we selected the references for that one. I could drag the lines, the drag handles down to where they're not going that far into the part. I could do the same thing for these ones too. So now we have that, and the same thing for this one. And so now you can see the references are exactly what they should be. So now to get that section plane showed up, I have my plane display already on. It does require some initial legwork and setup, so I already did most of that. All I'm going to do is, so I have two layers here, one that says no section and one that says section A. I also have that set up in my layer tree here. And after you do some initial setup, then all I got to do is go to all the views that I want that section A plane in. So I'll start with this one. And if I edit its definition and choose it as the section A layer, it'll show up. And it'll be the same thing for the rest of these. And you can see it showing up in all these views. The model view and the main view already have no section chosen. So as I'm going back and forth between these, you can see section A is right here, but in my main, it doesn't exist because we have no section applied. So I'm going to switch back to the fully annotated one. So let's say, you know, we're good with everything and it's all annotated how we want it. I want to point out that this is really used for critical dimensioning, is because in Creo View you can choose measuring and markups as to where you might need more fine dimensions as well. So, but what we're going to do is export this as a PVZ and then show it in Creo View. And I want to point out too, Creo View Express is free to download if you guys don't have Creo View, and it will open PVZ files. So to do this, it's just to save as, save a copy. I'm going to choose the type as PVZ. There's some initial setup. So I had to set up some configurations at first in a separate file. So that file's in a directory here. And I'm going to make sure that this is set. Yep. And I'm going to load it here. Hit OK, customize export, and now it'll export all of this as a PVZ file. And then I could go find it. And looks like where'd it go? Here we go. Now, this is just how it brings it in, but to go to my states, and if I just go to viewables, the viewables tab here, it will show the section and all the dimensions within here that I set up in parametric. And we could rotate out of here. So this is the type of file that would be used in place of your drawing sheets, in place of your printed ones or PDF. It doesn't matter. This is in place of that, and this is what's becoming more useful and a lot more common. I'll show you the other ones here overall. So that's what the final step would be here. So just to touch on some of the benefits here. Sorry. Model-based definition provides better collaboration across the entire business model and sharing with other businesses as well. What that means is having that PVZ file is pretty universal. You can share it with, if some of you guys outsource for this kind of stuff, you can share this file with other companies or within your own business and different departments. So that's what this allows for. You also have reducing the time by annotating the 3D model rather than creating several sheets of drawings. Because annotating that model is a lot quicker than setting up your views and then setting up your sheets and your formats and things of that nature. This is just a lot more confined to the three-dimensional space. You have the ability to view annotations separately still within the graphics window. As you saw, we were able to see dimensions and datums for the slot, but then we were also to see that carry over to the wholes view, and then, you know, creating a section view as well. And again, we have that 360 view of the entire model where the annotations are still showing up. So this is MBD is huge in that aspect, where we're trying to get this in place of drawings so businesses and manufacturing companies can move forward a lot more time efficiently, is what it really comes down to. So thank you guys for being here. At this point, I will take any questions. What you can do is type a question, and I have the ability to see what those questions are, and I will do my best to answer them. So I will leave time open for questions here, if anyone has any. And I'll answer you guys verbally, so that way we know what's being asked and we know. I see some here. Let me pull this up here. All right, I see the list here, guys. Give me a sec. Using a black background view. Is it possible someone using this drawing could use a white background where the Phil Stover, if you're still on here, you're asking if it's possible that someone using the drawing could use a white background where the dimensions show up. Typically in both, well, at least in drawings, it's always had a dark background. In parametric right here, I have my Creo customized to a dark background, and I have it so that way, and I have the customization to where the annotations are light. So that's, in that sense, it's just a preference. The dimensions, when you export it to Creo view, they'll stay white, and you have to change the background to a dark color in Creo view to get the dimensions to show up. Let's see, seems to be a lot of questions. Phil, I hope that answered your question. How can, well, it's hard to read this question a little bit. How can MBD information be sent to an outside to an operator? Using 2D was, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, but Claudio, using 2D was easy for an operator in a page to get all of the information. In our projects, we have around 20 combined views. To switch between these pages is not an easy practice from my point. That is why MBD has it is the better solution. You don't have pages anymore. Yes, you have combination states, but using a PVZ file in Creo view, you can easily switch between all of those combination states versus having to sift through around, 20 different views. You can just see all the information directly on the model. And then you had also asked, doing the CAM operation, I would like to see dimensions for my viewing CAM. Is it I'll have to find more information on this, but yes, the idea is that we want the CAM programmers to see this information in this method. That's the whole point of this, is to get, this is in a sense replacing the drawings. So in a general sense, yes, it is possible for them to see that information, to see those dimensions. All right, sorry guys, I'm trying to get to all your questions. Brashesh, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. As far as family tables, how to show tables or family tables or whole tables in MBD, I will have to reach out to you separately to get you information on that. Claudia, you had another question. Is there any way in the default view to not see all the dimensions put together? In combined view is not published, but still appears in Creo view. Yes, that's why that model view is created. It kind of resembles the default view where there's no dimensioning at all. It's just the model. And then that will show up in Creo view. If you have that as a combination state, that's why I turn the default one off and make one that's just the model instead. It'll show up in Creo view. Robert Fisher, 3D PDFs, all you would do is go to save as, and as the type you would change to 3D PDF, and you have to, and then when you hit OK, there's an option that shows up. You have to select that it exports the annotations with it. I also want to point out you need a full version of Acrobat Reader in order to see the dimensions rotated around with the model. I don't know if a lot of companies have that, some do, to where you're able to see the dimensions rotate around the model with it. So it depends if you have that functionality with Adobe Acrobat. Michael Maddox, are there config settings that will ease the setup of all the command features in MBD? I don't know if it involves configuration settings, Michael, but a lot of companies set up what's called a start part, where they have everything set up with an empty part, like there's nothing in there, and then they use that to use for their models that they're annotating. As far as config settings, I would have to look into that, but I do know that a lot of companies will set up certain they're called schemas, that allow you to just have your part in there, and then it's ready to start annotating from the jump. Bailey Jones, this is being recorded. It will be on our PDSVISION YouTube channel, I believe later or tomorrow. So yeah, there will be this video. Javisha, I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. You're asking if we could do a detailed view if required. I will have to get back to you on that. I believe you can. Robert Bushel, the annotation feature property, is that also available in Creo 4? I don't think it is, but I'll double check. Angel, almost at the bottom of the list here. Is it possible to create drawings based on those annotations and don't have to recreate drawings from scratch? Trying to understand your question here. I'll answer your question in two parts here. So the traditional way of doing drawings are based on those annotations, and you're asking if there's automated, where it's automatic and you don't have to recreate the drawings. Once you have a drawing, that's it. Like, the annotations always exist though, because those strong dimensions, come through just by creating the model. the dimensions that we create are ones that we are specifically calling out. So let me know if I didn't fully answer your question. I could elaborate a little further beyond this. Enrique, what is the difference at using annotation feature to select referencing than just going to a 3D element and go to an there is no difference, Enrique. It's just a personal preference. With but I will say, with the dimensions that we are creating that don't exist on the model, those ones, that reference tab is grayed out. You select the initial references, and then you can furthermore add the references as we were doing in our file there. But ultimately, that's why I wanted to show the show annotations functionality to where that is available, and it ultimately does do the same thing. Is it possible? Terry Pack is asking, is it possible to use this for routed harness and not just mechanical? That's a great question. I will have to ask. I know exactly who to ask that question to, and I'll have to reach out back to you on that one. And okay, that is the list of questions. And I'm going to assume that that's all the questions we had, unless anyone has any more. Javisha, can we set up 2 different views on the same sheet, like front and top? Oh, so you're asking, like, on a sheet, how we have front and top on the same sheet, whereas with this, that's not how it. I see what you're saying. You want to have the ability to view them. That MBD doesn't operate like that, because you have the ability. It's all being viewed directly on the model. You have the ability to rotate out of, say, a front view or a top view. So if there's something that you need to see, MBD is eliminating the need for that, is what I'm saying. It's not where you have a top view and a side view, or a detailed view and a general view all on one sheet. You can still see it all together in this. It just depends, what your setup is and what your part is. You could rotate you can change your orientation view in the graphics display toolbar. You can just change it to a different view, and you can just change them on the fly. So MBD doesn't really, it's not operating like that. You're able to see them all on the model. All right. Thank you guys for being here again. If you guys have any questions, I want to stress and point out that we have a lot of resourceful information on our YouTube page, on our YouTube channel. There are several webinars on several different topics. I strongly encourage, for those of you guys that are still on here, to please go there and watch those videos. It's a wealth of information. Any sales questions, there's sales@pdsvision.us, and any technical questions, you can reach out to me or our support portal. So thank you guys for being on here, and you have a great rest of your day.